Well, Oregon beat Washington finally.
They didn't just beat them. Dude, that thing was... That was over. I mean, I guess give Washington some credit, but when they got the turnover and Oregon held them to 3, and then Oregon just went right down and scored, and what was that, like 21-6 at that point? You're like, yeah, game. Like
It felt that way.
Washington never, ever felt like they were in that ball game. They were overmatched from the game. The first drive was just so damn easy. And then it's like,
but then
right.
Washington's first drive made me thought, okay, maybe we get a little bit of a shootout, but that was it.
Yeah,
Well, the quarterback, I hadn't seen Williams yet.
Yeah.
And so when I first saw him, I'm like, ooh.
He caused some problems on the first drive, and then they basically figured him out.
But then he, you watch him long enough, you're like, oh, okay.
It was weird. He went 17 for 20, which sounds great, but he took 10 sacks.
Yeah.
So
And he's a freshman.
Yeah.
But you could see he's got some wheels.
I'll say this for Washington. You knew this was going to be a rough year. Jed Fish told you it was going to be a rough year, and indeed it was a rough year. So now where do you go from here? Do you rebuild the roster? Maybe you found your quarterback here, but these are two programs that appear to be from where they were last year, where neck and neck, Washington was a hair better both times, played for a national title, and now you look at where for the next 5 years where these programs are heading. Boy, they seem like they're light years away when for the last 2 years, Washington has been your daddy.
Isn't it wild to think that, and I think we all saw that coming, right? We saw Lanning, a little revenge factor.
Yeah.
Lanning's going to get one on Washington. They're way better this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Monkey off back, whatever.
Sure.
Isn't it weird to think that Oregon, we knew that the Ohio State game was the marquee game.
Mm-hmm.
And most people circled the Wisconsin game on the road as being that next game. It's like, ooh.
And it was.
And both of those played out that way. They were, you had to watch those. Very close.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird to think that the other two best games of the year were Idaho and Boise State?
And the one game that you can truly say that you should have lost was Boise State. Boise was like, I can't say that Ohio State was better than Oregon. I can say that it was right there and it was the narrowest of margins. Boise State was better than Oregon. They just had a couple special teams, absolute just screw ups where they just didn't have the athletes to hang with them. And yes, that is crazy.
2/3 of their season was unwatchable.
Yes.
It was.
Yes.
2/3 of their season, the Ducks, was the same game. Maryland, Michigan State, Michigan,
Illinois,
Purdue, Washington. That's 6 of them right there.
Yeah.
Oregon State, 7. Am I missing another one?
UCLA was in there, right?
Yes,
yeah.
8.
Yeah, it just wasn't that interesting of a season. Like if I would have told you at the beginning that Washington, Idaho and Boise State would be the nail biters.
What an opportunity.
Like, huh?
Well, also after the Boise State game.
Yeah, there was a lot
of heat coming from that side of the table over there.
Look, I said,
dude, they're the only undefeated team in all of college football.
You knew there was room to get better, but especially along the offensive line. That's the leap they made from Idaho and Boise State and in that run game and to where they are with Ohio State. I can't speak enough about how good the improvement level has been. And as much as we're going to talk about their offense, this is a defensive football team. The defense is better than the offense. And there really isn't a ton of weaknesses. When you look at complete teams, it's turned into a very good O-line. I'm not going to say it's in a truly elite O-line, but it's a very, very good O-line, especially from where they were in the first 2 weeks. You have a couple good backs. You have a very, very solid quarterback. You have an NFL tight end. You have 3 NFL receivers. Defensive, you have one of the best defensive lines in the country. You have a very, very good secondary. Linebackers, you have good linebackers. I don't think you have great linebackers. Maybe that's something that Penn State can expose, but there just isn't a lot of weaknesses on this team. And I could not have said that. We knew where the potential was, but after the first 2 weeks to see where they're at now, I think Dan Lanning and company, they've answered a lot of questions about their coaching acumen because we knew, and this was true about Cristobal, right? We know they can recruit. We know that they can bring in athletes. Can you grow and develop? And I think this year, from those first 2 weeks on, answered a lot of questions for me about where this coaching staff's at.
Well, the 2 best teams they played this year were Ohio State and Boise State.
Yeah.
Does it concern you, even though those were both in the first half of the season,
yeah.
does it concern you that the 2 best teams they played put 34 and 32 on them.
Look,
Or 34 and 31. Sorry.
I think their defense is a lot like Ohio State's, in that it's a very solid group, but they're not elite. They're not. You can score points on this team.
to Penn State can score points.
Yes.
Because I don't care about Illinois and Michigan and Maryland and Wisconsin and Washington. I care about Penn State and what happens after that.
Yeah, it is.
And I have a big question about that. I don't know if Penn State has enough dudes. I wonder about it.
They don't have great receivers. They have.
They're gonna have to run the ball.
They're
gonna have to run the ball, and you can do that against Oregon.
And get to Warren.
And get to Warren. And Singleton, their back, is getting healthy. And Drew Aller against the Marylands of the world looks great. The question is, Drew Aller in every big game kind of S's the bed.
And it feels like they handcuff him too, maybe because he can't. I don't know.
Is this where the big boy panties finally get pulled up?
Whoa.
And Drew Aller actually plays a big boy football game? Because if it does, that now you're in a dogfight. But I know Oregon in these games. I trust Dylan Gabriel. I trust their playmakers. I can't say that about Penn State. And I think with Oregon, there is not a receiver outside of Warren, their tight end, that scares you. They're going to play man on the outside, and they're going to double cover. They're going to put a safety over the top of Warren, and they're going to dare Drew Aller and Penn State to do something against them. And we'll see how that goes. I mean, that's what Ohio State did to Oregon, and Oregon got them out of that look real fast. Can Penn State do the same thing? And then on the other side of the ball, Abdullah Carter is the best player that Oregon will have seen on that side of the ball. And whichever tackle that he decides to go and where they move him around, can they keep him from wrecking their pass game? And can that interior of that run game, everything Oregon does is set up on their run game. And I think this is going to be a really fun matchup. I just think Oregon is a deeper, and I think they're a better team and more battle tested than Penn State. But yes, to your point, Oregon is a very good team. Oregon is the best team in the country. But from Boise State to Ohio State to Wisconsin, there is not a single team this year that truly looks like an elite juggernaut, Oregon included.